Dear friends, in this session, we are going to look at Android form elements. So there's nothing but looking at the views, how we can create views in Android. For example, if we just take an example, in this particular screen, we have a small view wherein we have a small title bar followed by a text fields for entering name and other details. So in this session, we will majorly deal with what is this about? How to create a layout, something of this sort. Okay. So in Android, in the previous sessions we have covered, uh, the views will be kept in a folder called resources. In resources, we have a subfolder called layouts. In that folder, we will be having XML files of views. So there are two things in views. There is something called as view group and view. View groups are nothing but layouts which help to group the views. For example, there are different kinds of layouts like linear layouts, relative layouts, constraint layouts. These are the layouts which will help to align the views. When I say views, views are in another term we can call it as widgets. So like text, a label, when it comes to HTML language, if you just name it, there are something like called buttons, labels, uh, text fields, radio button, drop down, checklist. So all these things, spinners, all these things are called as form elements or widgets or views. So these UI components will be grouped by view groups or otherwise called as layouts. But this is how it will be if you just see here. So this linear layout, relative layout, in this flow chart, whatever I have mentioned, this linear layout, relative layout, these things are called as view groups. This will help to group the views and also align it. For example, if at all we have to center align a particular text field, or if we have to give certain spacing between two different views, so those things can be done using the view groups. Okay. So okay, so we'll start with view groups. There's nothing but layouts. So we have basically, if we just categorize, these are all the kinds. First, we'll start with linear is something like linear layout. If at all you want to arrange certain things vertically or horizontally, then you will go with linear layout. For example, I have some 5 button which I have to arrange in arrange vertically, top to bottom. Then what I'll do is I'll just name it as a linear layout. Within that linear layout, I'll say the orientation as vertical. Within that linear layout, I'll just put 5 buttons. So all these things will be arranged linearly in vertical format. Another thing which is called as relative layout is with respect to other views. For example, there is one view, from the first view the second view should be arranged arranged you know relatively from the left view. So we can define saying this particular view should be left of this particular view, and there will be a third view which should be arranged in the bottom. So we can say, okay, the second view should be arranged to the left of the first view, and the third view should be arranged bottom of the first. So for that we will be using relative layout. And then we have a table layout. wherein we can say how many rows, and row by row. It's very similar to table. However, we will using, even in other places, wherein we will specify based on rows, how many rows will be created based on number of columns. So similarly, we'll be having, and there is something like list view. For example, if you want to have a scrollable list, so you have for example, mail. If you just take the example of emails, in inbox you will be having list of emails. So for that, to arrange that, we will be using list view. Okay, currently, the this is uh, 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 in list view there are a recent development. Few years back we got something called as recyclable, so it's just little advanced version of list view. I haven't mentioned one thing here. There is something called as constraint layout. So Google has recently started recommending uh, everyone to use constraint layout. We'll take that. We'll try to understand that layout as well. Constraint layout is nothing but it has just by uh, just the name itself explain what it is. Constraint layout means based on constraints, we will uh, arrange the entire views. So from it's little advanced version of relative layout. That's what you can say. It's little advanced version of relative layout. Okay, so we just go a little deeper into some of the terms which are commonly used in view groups. So if you just see here, views should specify width and height. So that is for all the layouts or view groups, we will specify. There are two parameters which are kind of mandatory. One is layout width, and another one is layout height. So in general, there are two ways to specify width and height. So something called as match parent. Match parent is nothing but whatever was the parent view, whatever is the width or height of the parent view, match that particular width or height. So if you don't want to specify a particular width or height, if you want to stretch it completely, a particular view group, then we will go with match parent. There is another option, something called as wrap content. Wrap content is nothing but if we want to, for example, whatever we have a text view in which we have some text, we can specify saying how much ever is the text content is there, wrap it till that. So the view or view group will shrink or expand based on the content. So that is called as wrap content. So in general, it is recommended to use any of one of the things when you are defining a layout: match parent or wrap content. Now, with constraint layout, we can also say in terms of percentage, saying like from top, sorry, how much percentage of the width it should have, or height it should have. Apart from that, we can also specify in terms of number. Okay, the width or height should be like 200 dp or 400 dp. Okay, I'll just explain what is dps. dt is nothing but uh, 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 so in general, we will be using something called as pixel. But to make it device independent, because we have high definition devices and then we have low definition devices. So for that, the Android has come up with a parameter called as dp. So in general, if at all you specify any dimensions in Android, we'll be using density. So that is like independent of the pixel. So based on the device, the uh, it will be independent of the pixel of the device, and it will be based on the density of the device. To put it in a blunt manner, it will based on high definition or low definition devices, your layout will become flexible, and it will the height and width will get adjusted accordingly when we are going to specify in terms of DP. When it comes to text, we'll be specifying in SP and DP is almost similar. The slight differences, the your settings, phone settings will have an option to change the text size. If your text has to be responsive, to the settings change. If I'm going to increase the text size, actually the text size based on the phone settings, the text size should increase. So if we have to make it that way, then it has to be, the text should be specified in specific in SP. So in general, for all the other dimension, we'll be specifying in DP, and for text we'll be specifying in SP. Okay, going forward, so there is also something called as weight. So this is uh, you know uh, this is relative, this, I have mentioned here, the weight is nothing but relative size compared to other elements. So in the examples, I'll just, it's nothing but if we are in a linear layout, we will be keeping 3 buttons or something like that. So what to do with the remaining space? So which view should occupy relatively how much percentage of the width or height? So that will be specified based on weight. So, and also we will be, okay, how we can access the views. There are two things, right? One is layout or XML files wherein we'll define the views, and there is a Java files or Kotlin files. So where we will be writing a program to access the view and then do something with the views. So how we can do it? So first is we will inflate the views in the class files. Once we inflate the view, for accessing a particular view, we have to have specify the IDs for each view. If at all we have to access, or if at all we have to do certain operation in the class file, we have to specify the ID so that we can access that view using the ID in the Java file. Okay, going forward, so here if you just see, it's just a simple layout which I just represented. So this enter a number, in web, if you are a web developer, or if you are in general, in other places, they will term this as a label. So label will be termed as text view in Android, and they have this thing, right? A box to enter text. So that's called as edit text in Android, and we have a button here, submit. So that's a button. So if you just see here, and we have 2D graphics, right? Again, that is also a text view. So this thing, so how it is represented here? First, these three groups are mentioned in a linear layout, and this whole thing, this one and 2D graphics are mentioned in a linear layout. Okay, so this is just to give a glance of how the view is created. So there are two, Android provides two different views. Even when you just go to, uh, I'll just show that particular thing also. But we'll just complete the presentation, and then I'll just show how it is being mentioned in Android Studio. In Android Studio, we have two different sections when it comes to layout. We have design, and we have let me just show you only. I'll just go to, I'm going to layout, activity.xml. So if you just see here, you have design and then text. There are two tabs. So design. So if at all you want to uh, 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 design it, meaning of designing it is, instead of writing the code for creating the layout, you can also drag and drop. For example, in our current example, we need first a label here, followed by need a button for submit. Just drag and drop here, and then I need a text view. I'll keep a text view here. So if at all let me put content for first. Just dragged and dropped, right? You just go to text, you will have all those things. A code will be generated accordingly. I just dragged and dropped the edit text, text view, and button. This is how one way is you can drag and drop here and then code here, or you can, if you are comfortable typing and then coding your programming your views, you can do that as well. So another advantage with design is you can also, when you want to run, just see here, if you just see here, you can also see how responsive it is becoming. So you can select which with different device and see how exactly the layout is responding whenever you are changing a particular device. Going back to the presentation, so that's how it is, for this um, this particular layout. You just see the XML file here. As we discussed, there is one parent linear layout, and inside that you have a linear layout which is arranged horizontally. This one, if you just see, these views are arranged horizontally and these views are arranged vertically. So that is what we have mentioned in the orientation. In the orientation we have mentioned it is vertical. The parent view is vertical. This is parent linear layout is vertical, and the child linear layout is horizontal. So that's what the parent vertical. And if you just see a layout with match parent, layout height, wrap content, that's what we have mentioned here. So the reason why we have mentioned match parent is that it should cover the entire view. Here we wanted the height to be matched to the wrap the content, in a sense, based on the whatever the views we are representing here, accordingly it will be wrapped. So there is this child linear layout. We have here we have mentioned horizontal match parent and match parent because it has to cover the entire space. That's the reason we have mentioned match parent and match parent. Inside that we have a text view, edit text, and a button. If you just see here, there is something called as for edit text we have mentioned a layout weight as 1. The reason why we have mentioned that is, so enter number and submit button, for these two things the size is fixed. Okay, meaning that is when it has wrap content, it will wrap the content and then it will get the required space. After that, whatever the space left, actually the edit text to occupy the entire thing. That is the reason we have mentioned, because otherwise if when we say wrap content, as the edit text doesn't have any text, wrap content will become 0 actually. But we don't know how responsive it will be with different devices. For example, tablet, and when it comes to a phone, these are two different things. This is landscape and that one is portrait. So, and also if you're going to rotate the screen, again a portrait will become landscape and again your view should be responsive. So to make it happen, we have mentioned Android layout weight of edit text as one, which means text view and button, the size is fixed based on wrap content. We have mentioned the size as well because we know the entire. Here we have mentioned the entire text, right? Enter a number, and also button also has a text called submit. So based on the number of letters here, it'll get wrapped, and these button and the text view has fixed sizes, but the edit text will be responsive based on uh, the device. And we have another view. So if you just see here, custom drawable view. So this is not a default view. So this is we can also have our own custom views. So there is a class called view, right? All these views, button, edit text, text view, all these are extended a view class, and Android has created these views. We also have an option to extend the views and create our own custom drawable. We'll dig deeper into it. So now I just included another view. This is a custom drawable view. uh, I'll show the class later. So custom drawable view, and then you can also put it like that. However you are putting text to edit text. Similarly, you can also create your own custom views and then put the class here, and then put the respective parameters, weight, width, height, all those things. So here we have mentioned linear layout. It can be a relative layout, it can be a constraint layout. Actually, these days it's Android, in the official documentation they have mentioned it is recommended to use constraint layout. The reason being, constraint layout avoids hierarchies. Okay, I'll just let me explain what is hierarchy. If you just see here, you have a linear layout here, child linear layout, and you have a parent linear layout. What's happening is we are creating a hierarchy here. So if at all we are going to use constraint layout or relative layout here, the hierarchy will be removed. Okay, what is the advantage of going away with hierarchy? The advantage of going away with hierarchy is overdrawing will be avoided. So how this will happen is, first the parent layout will be drawn, and then the child linear layout will be drawn, and then the text view, but edit text and button. So it is like, it's a three-step process to create the if I would have used constraint layout here. It's actually a two-step process wherein we'll be having a constraint layout and all the views are represented here. Okay, it's again, it doesn't mean that you should not use linear layout. So based on, for example, in this case, it makes the linear layout more it makes the layouting very clean, going with linear layout, because we have a complete control over this child, by using weight, and the whole process is simple. Again, it depends on the requirement, we have to make the changes, but it is recommended to use constraint layout. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, and so there is, okay, what are we going to, okay, we have created the views, and we have inflated that view in the class file. Then we got the views. What are we going to do with this? Thing is, in class, that's what we will be doing it in the class files. What we will do is, we have created a button here, right? If you just see here, we have created a submit button. Okay, so we need to actually define, saying on click of this button what should happen. Okay, that can be defined in the class file, right? And there are so many options, like if I'm going to click on this, maybe I have to give a toast saying, you have is restarted edit. Okay, so all those things, handling of UI events can happen, can be done using the class files. For example, we have something called as on touch events, right? On touch, on click. So these events, can be used. And we can also have listeners, like long press, the click we have already mentioned, on a particular press of key on when you are doing a long press. So all these things we can also have listeners. Another advantage is this click event can also happen. We can also specify in the XML layout as well, that we'll see here. For example, for our example, whatever we have mentioned here, on click on submit. One thing is you can do a on click listener on the class file. Otherwise, you can mention the method which should be invoked on click on the XML itself. For example, in the example whatever we have seen for the submit button, we can create a method something called as on submit button click on the class file, and we can have a small parameter called on click. You have to go to this particular method. So that can be mentioned something like this: Android on click on submit click method should be called. Okay, there we can specify this is the on submit method. Okay, on submit method click, which is there in the class file. So there we can do the set of operation. Okay, taking the text, whatever is text which is present in that particular uh, edit text, and then doing the respective operations. Okay, so this is what I have mentioned. We can extend a view and create a custom drawable view. Here what I am trying to do here is, in this custom drawable view, we're just creating a number of squares based on edit text. In the edit text, we can enter the number of squares, and the number of squares will be created using the custom drawable view. Okay, that is what I'm just trying to do here. So we will go to the Android Studio and try to understand this particular uh, whatever we have discussed so far in the presentation.